Figma has done it again, constantly helping us to work more efficiently. They have released the multi-edit tool, which allows you to edit components across different frames. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Chili, your UX design BFF. Let's get into it. What we're going to do is start off with the basics of multi-edit. And currently I'm using Figma's playground file, so we can go through some of the best ones that I feel like are very useful, and we can explore them together. I've been waiting so long for this feature because when you're in prototype mode, it's always been able to recognize similar objects. So I've always wondered, like, why can't you then edit them together? And you can now do that. It only shows up when an object has been selected, and it is this tool right here. Select matching layers. There you go. It relies on position and how you name the layer. So even though this does not look the same visually, because obviously it's rounded and it's red, but because it's named the same, rectangle 1, it will recognize that as the same object. You can do the same with text. Before, you would have to edit each text individually. I guess the only other way to edit it all together is if these were components, but sometimes you don't have everything in components yet. I usually use components when I'm sure about what I want to build, not when I'm still in experimental mode. So this is helpful. You can just select this and that, and then when you press enter, you can name them instead. You can edit some of the formats. So let's do some changes to these shapes. Let's select them. We can change the size. As I mentioned, you're able to do a lot of these changes with components, but with components, you couldn't change the size. I remember that being something that I found really irritating when I would want to resize a component and I would have to go around to all the frames and resize them all. Next, let's look at auto layout. So we can select objects in the first frame and select matching ones, and then Command A. What this does, which is really cool, is it creates the auto layout within each of the frames individually. Another thing I've noticed is that sometimes you don't have to press the select matching layers icon. It just kind of knows. So I've selected all of this and I've just pressed auto layout, and it's worked even without me pressing that. Another thing you can do is rearrange things in auto layout. So again, I've selected these, selected matching layers, put them in an auto layout. Even though these look visually different to these, they are named the same. I think they're named like tab 2, tab 3. They have a same name. And this one can be a little bit tricky when you're rearranging things in auto layout. So to rearrange things in auto layout, you select the actual object you want to rearrange, and then you go there, and then you move it. I love this feature. Now let's work through some of these from this playground document by Figma. I will have it linked below. Okay, so this one, let's select this and select matching frames. So as you can see, they've been selected even though they look different. So what Figma has done is taken into account the name over the positioning. If you want to move these in their respective frames, hold Shift, and then we are going to align them. If we want to center align them within their respective frames, we're going to do that. Because if you do it without holding Shift, nothing happens. And if we press Shift and we want to center align it to the middle, there you go. Remember, if you're not pressing Shift, I'm not pressing Shift at the moment, it will not move. But as soon as I press Shift, it moves within its respective frame. So this is without Shift, nothing's happening. When Shift happens, these buttons have little boxes around them. This is a fun one. So multi-editing within auto layout. This is interesting because these auto layouts are different. You've got one that's horizontal, you've got one that's vertical, and you've got one that's in a box. So we're going to select this red box and select matching layers. And I'm going to press left and everything moves. Ooh, that's interesting. So when I press left, they all move, including this one moving down. And then when I press down, only these two move and this one doesn't. And then when I press right, this one moves back. When I press up, this one moves, this one doesn't move. So I'm very curious as to like why this one doesn't move yet this one moves every time even when I press left and right, even though there's nowhere to go left and right. And you can also scale things that are in auto layouts. We did touch upon that a little bit earlier on. Okay, now for components. This is quite interesting because sometimes when you're creating variants, unless you're working within a master variant, it can be hard to do edits when you have loads of different components. So what we want to do is add this arrow into this. So you select the button and multi-edit, and can we drag and drop it? No, we cannot drag and drop it. So let me go back, copy, make sure I've selected the outer part, which is an auto layout box, and then Command V, and there it is. Another thing you can do is change the size of things. And if you want to change text, always remember to press enter. Don't double click the text. I keep doing that. And then, okay, here is another example of editing components and variants. Using multi-editor still applies when the components are different sizes as well, which is really good for creating design system components like this. So this card, we want to change this image. I need to select multi-layer. Do not forget to do that. Sometimes I forget. And we want this for e-commerce. We're gonna name this jumper, press enter. And we want this jumper to be, you know, depending on where you are in the world, you could probably call it a sweater. In my country, you call it a jersey. But because we're here in the UK, we want it to be £60. By my country, I mean South Africa. Now we want to add this button. So copy it, select that, select multi-layer and Command V. It's now positioned in each card according to the different auto layouts. So here it's on the right, here, and on these two cards it's underneath. Okay, and last but not least, let's look at multi-edit for prototype. So I'm going to select this and bring up that small frame to view the prototype. Obviously this is a very simple prototype, but when you are building extensive prototypes and you need to make a change, this can be very time consuming, especially when you accidentally move things out of its position. You then end up with something like this when it updates, where you have like these slight little movements that ruin the smoothness of the transition. And sometimes if you have a very extensive prototype, you cannot find where the issue is. So this is where multi-edit comes into play. So let's change that text. I want to remove the word small and just have pendant lights. It's updated. And maybe we want to change one of these pendants to a different color. Let's make it, there it is. And maybe we want to make this bigger than all the rest. This is where the scale feature when it comes to prototyping is going to be the game changer, because making sure things are in the right position when you're scaling can be a nightmare. Maybe let's move this up a little bit so we've got a little bit, and there you go.
I hope you've enjoyed that, and if you have, please help me out by pressing the like button and subscribing to my channel. And let me know your thoughts on this new feature. Have you tried it? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.